Hello. Sorry about that. I was struggling.
I think Connie went to go find you.
Yeah. I don't know why my link on the link on the agenda that I had and the link that I had on my calendar did not get me through to this, but I'm here now.
Yeah. No, I use the one that was sent out with the agenda. Of course, I don't print the agenda, so I don't know what we're doing, but yeah.
Yeah.
Talking about budgets.
Yeah, that's the first time that's happened in a while, but from what I understand, occasionally you have to reboot your new teams, because sometimes there's a miss in it. But anyway, we're here now.
Okay.
Chair Doherty, would you like me to pull up the agenda on my screen and share it to you so you can see it?
No, that's okay, because I think for most of it, I mean, I'll call the meeting to order. And then I think Connie's handling most of the agenda items. So.
Okay.
Okay, so the meeting has begun officially.
So Karen Parkman needs to do roll call.
Yes.
For the record, my name is Karen Parkman. I'm the program coordinator for the Oregon Racing Commission, and I will conduct roll call for the budget committee meeting. Chair Margaret Doherty.
Here.
Commissioner Lindsay Fowler.
Here.
Director Connie Nguyen. I think your screen, there you go. Okay.
Here.
Okay, that is it.
And yourself.
Here. And myself, Karen Parkman.
Okay. Okay, so I think the next thing is the agenda, as I remember, is Connie.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the budget development update. And this is going to be quite fun because we officially got the documents, 30 minutes ago, Karen? So we've barely had a chance to go through this ourselves, but I am going to try to go through it as best as I can and try to give you an update on where we are. So just as a reminder, we have the agency request budget, which we sent in, and then the governor's budget comes back in as different, and then we have what's actually adopted. So you can see here just a highlight that can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I know there was some problems last time. So we had requested 7.9, and after the governor got done, it was 7.8. So there's a little bit of a change in revenue for a few different areas. And some of these screens are
clarify we do the budget process, but it still needs to be adopted by Ways and Means, correct?
Yes. So the steps after this is Karen and I will frantically put this together. So it just is a little bit of background. We're one of the agencies that have to submit our budget first before everyone else. There's a few of us. So that means when we get these documents, we're going to pack and send them out. And you will need to sign it as a chair. So you and I may have a follow-up call to explain before you sign it. So that's going to be very quickly and rapidly. This is a little bit unfortunate because it gives us very little time to really scour through the documents before we have to submit them to make sure there's no errors in them. But so once we request our budget and the governor comes back and makes their changes, we then go to Ways and Means, and Ways and Means will look at it and make any recommendations that they have. And I had a conversation with the Ways and Means co-chair, Representative Gomberg, yesterday, and he actually is trying to find more money for us. Good. So there may actually be a change here. Of course, there's strings tied to everything, as you know. So that number could change up or down depending on what happens.
Okay.
And at that point, we will probably see him in February. And then he mentioned that I don't know if just after the forecast is done. And then there'll be an official vote on it from the House and the Senate. That's more of a uh, formality, and then the governor will sign it in June or the end of June, 1st of July. Which we expect her to do, which she did not do last time to make a statement. So we're in much better position with the governor's office now, so I don't think we'll have any problems there whatsoever.
Okay.
All right, so this is a general high level. I'm going to dig into some of this lower level. Again, I have barely seen this myself. I just spent the last 10 minutes trying to go through all these documents. These are what we call special, have to go along with any type of changes that may be in there. This includes revenue shortfall, anything from an emergency board. Our analysts can make all their adjustments that they want, if we like it or not. That's basically our CFO, not the state level. Then there were some statewide adjustments made. You'll see some of these coming up. And then we have some bills in that will make a difference. We have a increased licensing fees, change in hub funds, which we're extremely happy that this actually made it into the governor's budget here. Increased maximum fines and fines on illegal wagering. So you will see those as we go through here as well. Of course, with that said, even though these are in here, that doesn't mean that they'll actually get voted and approved on by the legislators. Our hope is that they all will be approved.
It doesn't
Okay,
hurt.
so
It doesn't hurt that Representative Gomberg is supportive of this. That helps.
it does not hurt at all. And I
No.
have many, many visits scheduled with different legislators over the next couple weeks. So I will be very busy.
Okay.
So a lot of other cross-reference packages, these aren't really anything that really, I think the people on here would be terribly concerned with, except for these are, again, are the bills that we have in. A lot of these are just technical adjustments and so on and so forth. So a lot of the budget that we have no control over. We get to do a minute portion of it, and all the rest is pretty much automatic. And I think you'll see a lot of this as we go forward. And this stupid little bar is right in my way. There's okay. So this talks a little bit about beginning balance. I can tell you that this may go down a little bit. We plan on pushing some of this money out. I know that our finance people won't be happy about that, but we talked about that before. We want to make sure that that money's in the right place. Not that much, but there will be a little bit that's going to go out. They actually asked us to have a higher beginning balance, which this shows. That may or may not really happen depending on what we can push out to everyone. And when I say push out, that's through the hub funds. Business licenses, that actually is the same as what we put in. Charges for services, fines and forfeitures, income, that pretty much is just based on what our forecast is. Okay, so you're gonna see here, that is the money right now. If that bill's not passed, that will go to the general fund. I don't know, can you see this okay?
Yeah.
That a little better?
Yeah.
So right now, 1.74 million will go to the general fund if our 25% bill does not go through. We actually believe, based on how we're doing, it'll be closer to 2 million. So that's quite a chunk that we can hold on to. Now, a lot of that money, we've made a lot of drastic cuts to things like training, travel, facilities, infrastructure, even equipment, to to keep us going as best as possible because of the losses that we've had from HHR and OTBs and a year-round track and losing some of our ADWs. So a lot of that money that we would get back will just patch that up. But some
And
of
we can
that,
always hope that the money, comes back to us back to the general fund. But this session will be challenging financially just because there are some huge ticket items. Number one being Department of Transportation, because their ODOT depends on gas taxes, and between hybrids and electric cars, their tax revenues have really plummeted. Yet the need to fix the roads has gone up. So
that
gonna be challenging.
and in addition to that, DHS, their caseloads, because of their trying to tackle the homeless issues,
Mhm.
is huge.
And
Plus-
education.
And fire is another one. So there's four big pieces: fire, education,
Yeah.
transportation, yeah.
And in the big picture, 1.7 million is not that much. I mean, we think, but it's a lot to us, but not necessarily for the general fund. So keep our
Right.
fingers crossed what happens.
We're gonna keep our fingers crossed. The good news is, so far, everybody I've talked to is supportive of that. Who knows what's gonna happen though? But because that's still a question mark until we get to the end, we can't give any of that money out. The one good thing I can say about this is I did put an emergency clause in there, so the second it signs, it goes into effect.
Yeah, good.
Let's see. So then you can see the transfer to the, now I got myself all lost. Services, beginning balance, we're already there. I think I made this a little too big. I can't see the whole sheet. There we go. Back at the top. Okay, a lot of this is stuff I have no control over. Salaries are what they are, period. A lot of this is public employee, pensions, Social Security, paid and family leave, workers, nothing at all that we can make any impact on. Out-of-state travel, most of our out-of-state travel is actually reimbursed from the ADWs because most of it is for auditing. There is some training costs as well. We didn't make any changes on the employee training. We'd like to be adding more to that, but that's not likely to happen unless we see more money. Office expenses, we usually actually have savings in office expenses, but they require us to put a certain amount in there. Telecommunication as well, we expect to have some savings in there. You may not be aware of this, but we get charged by every other agency in the world. We get charged by HR people for HR support. We get charged by legal for all the legal stuff they do. We get a huge bill from accounting for putting it together, the accounting stuff. So all of these things come out in different areas from our budget. Data processing, which, frankly, that's very little, but they still charge us. Publication.
I would assume the Attorney General is just because of for all legal fees.
Yes,
Right. So
and
Yeah.
and that is really it's hard to know what that's going to be. Karen, do you remember how much we paid for that last contested case that wasn't even contested? It was thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
For the guy who left his horses in Grants Pass. And again, he didn't even reply.
Right.
So,
and we've had bills as high as $55,000 for one contested case on just a drug overage. So when those things get contested, and it can get very big depending on how long that battle goes on for. So we never really know exactly what that number is going to be. They do the best they can to do our 2-year average, and then we lend to the conversation with what we might anticipate coming along. A lot of rule changes, some things that might need more attention, and then we land there. But usually we have savings on that line too. So
Yeah, we usually do, but for example, when we went through all the HHR stuff, we had to do that was very, very expensive for us because the tribes had asked for a legal opinion on that. And people can ask for legal opinions at any time. If the governor tells us we have to do it, we have to do it. Professional services, that's some of our contract money is in there. IT professional services has been really low. We made what we thought was a dumb move that ended up being a really smart move. We went with an outsourced company called Cascade Technology Associations. And at first, they overcommitted and they were having a hard time, but they let go most of the state agencies. We are one of the few they retained, and now we're getting excellent service with them, and they cost very little for us. So that was actually a huge win. That and the other huge win was, what's the name of the people who are doing the HR for us now? What
It's DCBS. It's
Yeah,
the Department
DCBS.
of Consumer Businesses. So we have a contract with them. It's very small to just handle some of the overflow of things that are on the technical side that we just don't have the time to do. We literally do not have the time to do it.
Or the resources. And that may cost us, $1,000 a month or so. But if we were
Yeah.
going to contract with DAS, which we looked at, it would have been like $100,000 a year.
Yes.
So huge savings there. The same thing with the IT. The IT, they charge us as we go. I think we average about $300 a month. And again, DAS was like $2,000 a month.
The good thing with the DCBS contract is that it's a la carte. When we need their help, they plug in the hours. With the contract with DAS, it's across the board. We might have 4 things that we need in a year. It's going to cost us $55,000 for that 1 year to get 4 things done. So that makes no sense at all. So
Yeah. And the 55,000 she's quoting was a quote from several years ago. So we know it would be much more.
yes,
exactly.
exactly.
Okay, special payments. Now, this is the money that we have set aside for all of our hub funds. And that number is exactly the same as it was pretty much a year before. Now, you may remember for those associations that are on, we actually gave you more than what we had allocated. This includes everything. This includes not only what we give to the hub funds, but this also includes money for the totes, money for the jockey insurance, moving the tote board. All of that stuff comes out of this money. And what we have to do, Karen and I, is very, very carefully look at this is where we really sharpen our pencils. Where in here that we know that we can save money so we can push that number up and give you more. And that's how we ended up being able to give 3.1 million for hub funds away, plus pay for all those other fees, is the great work that Karen did with my pushing on saving in every little corner. If this is too detailed, let me know, but I think it's important for you to have a good idea of where our budget is. This is authorized positions, and these positions we have made cuts to them, but also know that a lot of our positions are actually contractors, so we don't have to actually have the people on year round.
So is that $10.39 or 10 million?
10.39 employees.
Oh, okay, got it. I didn't see that part. I thought, oh, wow.
That's really cheap for all our employees.
Right. I can buy you a cup of coffee on that $10.
So this is, again, the beginning balance and adjustments. They did that to us last year. They wanted an additional basically $60,000, which really hurt us. This year, they're $600,000. This year, they're asking for additional $200,000, which again, it doesn't help at all. But our ending balance still, beginning balance is still quite a bit lower that they're asking us for this time than last time, which is helpful. Mm-hmm. Okay, business licenses, you can see the trend. We were going up, and then we went way down. And the reason we went way down is because we no longer had a commercial track and we lost some ADWs. So that's individual licensing fees and also those ADW fees. Now that will go up slightly. This is anticipating that our bill will get approved, which increases ADW fees by $25 a day. Doesn't sound like much, but it's almost 10,000 each ADW per year. Charge and service isn't huge. Fines and forfeitures, we do expect this to go up a bit for a couple different reasons. Part is because of our bill. Our maximum fine that we can charge currently is $500. We do have a bill in that will allow us to go up to $5,000. Karen wants to say something. You're talking, but you're on mute.
Sorry about that. So I just wanted to remind everybody, because on the call, because there may be people on the call that don't know this, but the charges for services sounds like it's some charge. That is out.
Okay, good.
Just
So
so,
this
yeah,
is
just so,
what this is, and if you don't know what outs are, which is a really good question. So if somebody wins a ticket for the Kentucky Derby and they never get around to cashing their ticket, which, believe it or not, happens all the time.
Mhm.
A lot of times it's just like they only won 50 cents, so they don't even bother. Other times they just lost a ticket. I can tell you about a horror story. When I first started, we had someone who won $140,000, but they forgot to check their ticket until 2 days after the last day to
Mm.
cash it in. So what happens is when Dawn, our expert for pari-mutuels, and a certain set date, 90 days after the fiscal year's in, she gets her reports and figures out exactly how many of those tickets have not yet been cashed. And that's from the OTBs and on track. Now that number used to be a lot bigger, but like in this one scenario with 140,000, once she sends a letter to the tote company, that money is gone. It automatically it sends a chain impact through where the track Rod is notified. You have to reimburse all these unclaimed tickets because they never came in, so he has to send us a check for whatever that amount is. And this poor girl, the day after, 2 days later, found her $140,000 ticket, and there was I'm like, isn't there anything we can do for this poor woman? But there's not. So if you ever win a lot of money, look at the expiration date. Again, with the track being closed, this number's gone down quite a bit, and 160 may even be high. Last year we brought in 170, or the one we just did, we brought in 70,000. So that's 140. If we do the same thing, we're going to be about $20,000 short of this. Fines and forfeitures, again, we covered that. Sales income, other funds, overall funds. Let's see. Did I miss a page? No, this thing moves so quickly. That's all your stipend, overtime payments. We really try to watch the overtime payments. The problem with overtime payments, and again, we do not do overtime unless we absolutely have to. The biggest problem we have with overtime payment is like this summer, we have a race meet on Saturday and Sunday. And then 2 days later, another meet starts. So they literally can't take any days off and they're going to have to get overtime. But when we can, we try not to do that. So it's something we're constantly watching, but we have to be realistic on as well. And then we're back to a whole bunch of things we have no control over.
yeah, these documents repeat themselves.
Yeah, they do. Professional services, IT professional, dues and subscriptions. These are all pretty low expenditures, you can see. Talk about the distribution that's again the hub funds. Getting balance, we've already talked about that. Revenue category. Okay, so this one in our 2023 approved, it was 1.5 for revenue generated. Now, right now, they don't have anything there to go to the government general fund. So they're making the assumption that that bill's going to pass.
Yeah.
We can't do anything with that money until it actually does. Okay, salaries and wages. Board member, this is all repeat, all repeat. All repeat. And we talk about ending balance. This is our employees again. We do have a slight change here because we did change an additional position to seasonal. That position we hope to bring back because that's our vet.
Mhm.
And we really need more than that, but right now it's currently only seasonal.
Okay, are there any questions?
And let me just pop through here real quick and make sure essential packages. This one, I just wanted to show that's the additional money because of inflation that we had to add to our budget. An increase in state charges that we're expected to have. So you can see we have 88,000 for the AG budgeted.
Mhm.
We shouldn't have to spend that much, but you never know. And that's it.
Okay. Any questions? I think it's one of these, I mean, it's, you know, the budget is, I won't say flexible, but it, you know, until it is signed in, it's, you can't spend the money till it's all signed in. So anyway, but it looks like, from the financial standpoint, it looks stable, and it helps that the co-chair of Ways and Means is in our corner, and it's somebody who was not in our corner a year ago. So it's very good. Okay.
Yeah, and I would say if we get nothing, we're still fine.
Yeah.
But the way that we're set up, it should provide, we can make, the only thing that we have to worry about.
Yeah, you're cutting out, but and I think what it is, the big
But
thing is
the overseas, we're stable.
yeah, is to look at the bill that of things that go.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
The bill was 5%. So
Yes. Okay. New business. The next item is discussion of Fair Meet and Hub Fund grants. Karen, did you get Nate's request?
It hasn't come yet.
okay, that's easy.
Emailed it to you. Email it to you.
Let me check my email right now because
So
maybe while
we've
I've
only,
been on
Karen,
here.
did
Okay,
you get a
hold on.
hold of Cammie?
I did not get a hold of Cammie. Let me check email and see what's by phone.
So we've had hard time ring everybody and all these. But with that said, we do have a couple packets to look at for requests, and this will help us a lot with determining how much money we have left over for everyone else. We may end up having to have a second call before our next meeting because we do not have everything yet, but we can go ahead and start talking about what we do have so far. The first one, which I'm seeing for the first time, right along with you, is the request for Eastern Oregon Livestock Show. This is the very first one, and this is for the following 2 years. It does not include this year. They're asking for 87,115 per year. They're not asking for any more year over year. Now, this compared to, I'm gonna pull up really quickly while we're looking at this, what they asked for last year. So I can give you a comparison on it and we can talk through it. Because we will need to make a decision on if we're going to recommend this to the whole committee in 2 weeks. One moment, please. Let me know if you have any questions on what you do see here. Or you can ask Karen while I'm trying to pull the document out.
This looks pretty normal to me.
Yeah, I mean, market advertising, they only ask for $100. It's actually very reasonable. Come on, open up.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I lost my VPN connection. Do you happen to have last year's handy, Karen, where you can pull it up? Because I am not able to get into my drive.
Let me make sure. Yeah, let me see if I can.
Technology
So they're me.
hindrance.
Oh my gosh, it kills me. And they're asking for 3-day meet, just like they have been for as long as I can remember. Phone number of raises is 18. Video photo finish is 1,400. True form, for those of you who don't know, that's basically Josie. She does all the data entry and such for our forms. Versus are like they were last year, 4,000 each. Why am I not able to get into my drive? This is very irritating. It says I'm not hooked up to VPN, but my VPN is on. Saying. So that's exactly the same as it was last year. First incentive match. So if they are able to find outside providers with scholarships or grants for their races, we'll match them up to that amount. So they're requesting 1,200 a day. They can request up to 2,000, but they're not requesting that much. Marketing and advertising, they're only asking for $800. The other is the associate racing steward and the associate racing secretary. And the racing secretary, $800 a day. Karen, did you find it yet?
Not yet.
Oh, I might have it. It looks like I got it finally. Historic, 2024. Union.
Here, I think I've got it now.
I got it. I
Eastern,
got it.
you want Eastern Oregon?
Oops. Yeah, if you have it up, go ahead because this is not the right one. Close current.
This is, oh, there we go. Okay. Do you want me to share my screen here?
No, just tell us what the differences
Okay.
are between
Yeah.
between
So
this year and last year.
yeah, so 23, 25, 3 race days, 18 races. Video photo finish, 3,900. True form, 2,760.
So the two
Purses.
forms, yeah, so they've both gone up a little bit for inflation. That makes sense.
72,000 on purses, 3,000 on incentive match, 800 marketing, 1,350 racing secretary, and an associate steward 3 days. Looks like that's combined. And then 2,600 racing secretaries at this. Yeah, and they have that the same I see on this one too.
So the total at the bottom.
86,410.
So it's almost, I mean, it's within $1,000 of what they had before. So we'll look at what else we have, but I would have there's no reason not to approve this. It's almost identical to what it was last year. And that's the committee's responsibility to make a decision at this point if you want to approve that or not. And then for Prineville, I'm going to go ahead and pull up their application because
Connie, before you do that, do we have to go back and approve the document that you just showed?
this one, yes.
Well,
So
And we're just making a recommendation
Okay.
to carry it
Yeah, so
forward.
this
We're
is the
not,
time
we're
for
not
you guys-
approving the funds yet, but
Yeah, this
making
is
the recommendation.
a chance for
So-
you guys to discuss this and see if you think it's fair and if you want to bring this to the full committee.
Okay. Lindsay, do you have any questions about it? Because I would assume it's Lindsay and myself and Karen.
That's it. Yep.
I do not have any questions about it and it seems reasonable to me.
I do too. I would just see, is it okay just to recommend it to the entire commission?
I'd support that.
Yep.
Yeah, I would support that too. Okay.
Yep.
So we can put that on the
Okay.
agenda.
Yep. That's huge.
Okay.
The next one is so unfortunately, Karen, did we get any new ones?
Well, we have Sarah's. I
Yeah.
think you have that too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So these are the only
Okay.
two that I'm aware of that we have now. Nate's just came in.
So in Sora's, we have something a little different, just so you know. We've been in the past, we've been approving them for the next 2 years, just like everyone else, but they actually cross a fiscal line. So their meet starts in June and ends in July. So in the past, we were saying, okay, so we'll budget it for the 25, 27, but we have to give them the money in the 23, 25 biennium. So we're correcting that. And the way we're correcting that is we've asked Rod to give us a single 1 year budget. So we can give him this money in this current biennium. And then we'll look at another one for the next biennium. So this one is just for this biennium. And Karen, can you pull up the original for this one?
How
Yeah,
does it
You mean 23, 25? That, you
Yeah.
mean the
And how-
23, 25, yeah.
compare to what we have now?
So that total, and some things have changed in the line item here. I see with the labor and workman's comp. So that is not on the previous one for 23, 25, but that total is 442,285
Okay.
was the request.
So 400,000 and what?
442,285.
So this is significantly higher. And Rod, are you on the call?
Yes, I'm here.
Would you like to talk through this? And I can tell you that we have asked for a copy of his P&L. And if you want, we can go into executive session and discuss that in more detail. But Rod, go ahead.
Yeah, so, over the biennium, our costs have increased substantially. And over the last biennium, our shortages have to be made up by HRA and the HPBA. And it's just not sustainable anymore. So
Can I ask you why?
why is it not sustainable anymore?
Right.
Because our costs are going up on our end for the commercial meat. So as you can see that if these costs increase to run a fair meat, our costs to run a commercial meat are going up substantially too. And so over time, we're going to run out of money too. So we're going to have to, lose if we don't get monies on the fair meet, we're gonna have to, and we have to supplement the fair meets, then it's gonna hurt our commercial meet. And we're gonna have to have less days at the commercial meet and run less to create, if we have to keep supporting the fair meet.
Yeah, and the reason I asked this is that if this goes to Ways and Means and it's something that's been doubled, they're gonna want to know specifically why.
Sure.
And so have evidence that backs that up. So it's just kind of a thing of, with this sort of thing, we've got to make sure that we're ready to address it.
And
Sure.
Karen, can you go through here line by line from what it was last year to this year?
Yeah, so 23, 25, video photo finish 30,520.
Yeah.
And again, remember, we've had, like 9% inflation since then too.
Oh, no, I realize that. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, go ahead, True Form.
True Form 6,300. Purses 224,000.
So I do have a question about True Form. It doesn't look like they budgeted as much in Union for True Form as you did.
I'm just going off my P&L, what it cost me at our race meet. Now,
Okay,
you gotta remember, I don't know on a day basis because I didn't really pay attention to that, but you gotta remember, we're adding one extra race day to our meet on this application versus our application before. So everything's gonna be higher because the way the calendar worked this year.
that's right.
We-
I forgot
right.
about that.
I talked to you, Connie, about increasing one extra day this year.
Yeah. And so
Right,
that's
so-
sort of thing needs to be brought up.
Yeah, so the race meet, it was 7 last year and now it's 8. So that absolutely explains those additional costs on there. Person incentive, training, this is the training. How much was training last time, Karen?
So purse incentive match is 14,000. And then the training days, 161,865.
So I think this is one of the areas where you got a lot of money from HR. How much did you get from HRA last time? Rod?
HRA, 150,000.
Not HRA, I'm sorry, the Horseman Group. Randy's group.
OHPBA, 150,000. We split it down the middle. 150,000 come from HPBA and 150,000 came from the HRA.
So basically what they're doing, and I think what part of what Rod is saying is about being non-sustainable is they've been borrowing money from other organizations to make it happen. And they can't keep borrowing money to sustain this. One of the reasons why, can you talk a little bit about why your fair meets cost so much more than the other fair meets?
Well, for
Your
instance,
employees?
look at the training line item. There's 57 days of just training, period. That's $258,000. It costs us, I think I have on there, $4,533 a day is what it costs us just to open that up for training. And Connie has all the detail of why that costs that much money. It's AMR, it's the Outriders, it's all of that. The other fair meets have none of that. They don't train. They haul in and they race. And so we are setting up training for all of the other fair meets, honestly, because we're basically the first one getting started May 1st for these training days. And these places, these horses essentially have no other places to go to train their horses.
Yeah.
So where we're costing $4,533 for training, Santa Anita just made a deal with Pleasanton to stay open for training for $13,000 a day. So we're doing it a lot cheaper than some of these other commercial race meets are doing it, or they're really basically a fair meet. So we're doing it pretty cheap, but it's still costing a lot of money over that 57 days.
And what I'm saying is, these are the sort of things that need to be brought out if the Ways and Means Committee or whoever's working on that asks those questions. Because
Sure.
if they
Right.
look at that, they look at the dollar amount, they don't necessarily always at the very beginning look at what causes it. So.
Right.
And
And
that's one of the reasons why I asked Rod for extra documentation. So I can more clearly articulate that. The other area is a labor, workers' comp and security. And I know that's a huge expense for them and it's a huge problem trying to keep that property secure. I don't think we paid for that last year, did we?
No, we
But that's
haven't.
something that, yeah, you're requesting that we pay this year because you can't get it. And again, for this one of the advantages that they have at two of the fair meets is they get it for free. Both in Prineville and at Tillamook, the local police departments provide all of this for them. And I bet you it costs more than $200,000 for Prineville because they are rowdy there. So the number of cops that they're trying to keep. I wish we had the kind of security they did with already being 200,000. Oh, racing secretary. Okay. So that's it. It's a big pill to swallow, but that's what it is. Karen, you have something too.
Well, I guess I just had a comment and
Your hand is up.
yes. So, on the 258, that's the training. I feel like if we have better, longer training, we're going to have a safer race meet. I feel like that's a good way to be spending the money. And I support what Rod's saying. I don't know how else that would happen without this being done. And as far as the security, I mean, Grants Pass has had some history on security. I'm all for the security. I think that whatever we need to do to help that out, we need to do. It's a lot of money, but
My question is, where in the budget does this go and has it been reflected in what?
And this does mean that there's going to,
Pardon? I didn't hear.
so what's going to happen? That's really the question. So what's going to happen is we need to get the other two. Can you hear me now? We have to get all these fair meets and we only have two of them so far. We're missing two, although one of them we know what they want. And then decide how much money is left over. And whatever's left over can go to the associations. So the associations are going to get less money. But on the other hand, the associations are going to have to give money to Grants Pass to operate. So it's kind of like we're just cutting out the middleman in a lot of ways. But it will hurt the associations, especially if our bills don't go through.
Yeah. No, and we understand that. And those are the sort of things those are the arguments that you bring up with Ways and Means and so on, because a lot of times they don't necessarily, they see something like this and they look at the bottom line as opposed to the reason that it's getting there. And so we've got the good reasons to get there. We want to make sure that that is brought forth, because they're going to look, there was $800,000. Well, that's, we didn't have that before. So,
Yeah, that is true.
What we need to do.
So, Karen, do you have, I'm assuming you did not get either one of the other ones and your hand's still up. Do you have another point?
yeah,
or
I
did
just
you
raised another. I just raised my hand again. So the one thing that I would just like to say is that it's not 800, it's $400,000 different from what we had done. So I would like to not think of it in terms of 800. I would like to think of it in terms of this is a $400,000 increase. And what is the community of horsemen getting for that?
Yeah.
That security number is also covering security during all of that training time. it's not just the commercial, the actual race days. I'm hoping that's correct, Rod, that is security. So we've increased security costs just because we have this other, we have more
And
there too.
Those are the points
So,
that you bring
so
out,
those
Cory.
are things, yeah. And then, I think that was probably my only point, but if I remember something else, I'll raise my hand again.
Right. And so the other thing to remember is that this is coming out of our current budget. So if that's coming out of our current budget, we may not have much, if anything else, to give out from this current budget. We may be stuck with an empty bank because 800,000 is a pretty big chunk.
And does this come out of where you had, when you were going through the budget at the very beginning, there was like 1.7 million and in like cash carryover?
No, that's not it. That's not it. Remember I was talking about the fact that last time around, we got, the budget gave us 2.9 million for all
Right.
the associations, but we actually gave out 3.1 million.
Mhm.
So that's the money. We already gave out the 3.1. This is a current biennium, not the documents we looked at. Now we're adding $800,000 to that, which we have to find. Fortunately, I think we have it, but it's going to be close.
Okay,
And I mean, Karen and I, because we just got those papers today, we're going to have to sit through and go through those with a fine tooth comb, because that's this biennium, his and one of Dave's. And then we're going to have to come back and tell you if we think we can get all that money or not. Before our commission meeting. So that's the first half. Karen, you have another question.
Yeah, I remembered what I said. So that additional 400 that we're talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, Connie, but we already have slated that we're going to be paying SAR
that's right.
ahead of the end of this fiscal year.
That's right. So
Hold
it's
on.
only 400,000, yes.
And that 400,000 is coming from the underspent money that we typically at the end of a biennium
Right.
would say to everybody, okay, we've got this little extra, pot of gold. Tell us how you want to, have it divided up. And so everybody typically gets, and this is for you, Lindsay, because you haven't been through this particular portion of, so then we divide up that little bit at the end and everybody gets a little something more, and it's been a good thing. This time, nobody else would get anything else at the end. It would all go to getting
Well, we
this
don't know
other thing.
that,
Right,
there's
but close,
certainly
yeah.
not going to be as much.
Right.
There will be $400,000 less. We know that for a
And-
fact.
And by doing that, we do reduce our ending balance.
Yes, which we
And we
already
do
talked
that,
about,
yeah.
and that's going to happen. And we're going to get our hand slapped for it, but we're going to take that. Not our hand slapped. It's just, they want us to have more money in the bank. We talked about this last time. We don't want to have too much at the end because they may sweep it.
Yep.
So we have to make a calculated risk on how much we actually have to have and how much what it really comes down to is we have a certain amount of money we're allowed to spend no matter how much we have in the bank. And
Right.
so there's two
Yep.
different things. How much
Well,
are we
so
allowed to
yeah, we have
spend?
our cash and we have our legislatively approved limitation. So as long as we have the cash there, we can spend up to that limitation number, which we do right now. We're getting there. And so that's why we wait till the end of each biennium to make sure that nothing else pops up that's some crazy expense that for whatever reason we didn't anticipate, which doesn't usually, that hasn't happened in the whole time I've been here. But so, but that's how we do it, because we have our amount that we're given by CFO for special payments. We allocate all that out. Then we know that if we underspend in operations and we have limitation that's higher and we have cash sitting there, we can place it wherever we feel is best it to be placed. And so obviously it always goes to the industry in a divided effort.
And that's the route to do it, because you know, depending on what the revenue forecast is going to be. I've been through a session where we did sweeps.
Yes, that's,
And they-
I wasn't gonna say that word.
Yeah, and they take a lot
Right.
of money. I mean, we had the Oregon Cultural Trust that was, you know, hit hard and so on. And so you want to
Well-
make sure that it's done in a prudent manner, that the people looking for money are not going to look at this and say, oh, is it going to go
Right.
to here or is it going to go to kids?
So
So-
what I can tell you is I feel comfortable that we can pay for this. It just means there's going to be very little left.
Okay, that's all I need to hear.
Wait, hang on just a second, Dave, before we go. I want to bring up one more point. What was the other point? Oh, before you go, Dave, Karen, do you know, I know you talked to Doug and he said he wanted the same as last year plus what? Did he tell you what
3,000.
the, huh?
Plus 3,000.
So,
And that was,
He-
and that's to cover the gate crew, is what he says. He said, if we can look at
Yeah,
that,
the
that
gate
is
crew, right.
where they're gonna
and
land.
I
is-
actually encourage them to have paid gate crew because it's a liability. As a matter of fact, I wish Nate would have added that because we always have problems with gate crew with Nate's group. But he did not. Karen, can you pull up what they had last year so everybody can see what that is? And then, because that's part of this fiscal year, let's talk about that. Then let's talk to Dave and then let's look at the other request for next fiscal year for Rodlow.
Dave, does that sound like a plan?
Sounds like a plan to me.
Okay, thanks.
I'm not trying
Tell
to,
me
I'm not
when-
trying to take away your words. I promise. I just want to stay on the same subject here.
Am I on now?
Not, hang
Is
on.
it my
You know what?
turn?
Go ahead and go.
Yeah,
while
go ahead,
Karen's-
because it's gonna take me a
Karen's
second.
gotta find this document.
Just as a reminder of how difficult a problem that this is that when you get all of your budgeting done and we get to the hub allocations, and the reality is that they will probably decrease, that the pinch there isn't on the racetracks. The pinch is on the horsemen. You know, we try to budget for a $6,000 purse. The owner of the horse gets half of that, so it's $3,000. And I ran a budget on that a year or so ago, and by the time the owner pays all of the costs, he's got $50 left. And so if you say he's got to win a race a year to pay, or a month to pay those expenses, it just is a very difficult thing to keep people providing horses. And if they can't provide the horses, then SORA doesn't run, Eastern Oregon doesn't run, and it all goes away. So it's a very tight thing to keep our owners interested in buying another horse or breeding another mare or coming to. So I just want to put that in the back of your mind, just to be able to discuss that with members of the legislature. When you say we're paying a $6,000 purse, we're, as an association, contributing half of, well, it's 100% of our hub funds and 50% of our savings account into these meets to keep them going, so that they have the opportunity of running a race meet at the 4 remaining tracks. So it's just a very, very tight financial situation, and everybody has an excuse for inflation, but so does the owner of the horse. And at some
Absolutely,
point,
yeah.
the owner of the horse says, I can't afford this anymore.
And so those
Oh,
are
wait.
the answers that we need to be prepared to do, and we're prepared. So
So
Yeah, but it's,
I have a
when
question,
I did-
Dave, is, do you think
Go
that,
ahead.
do you have a proposal on what you think we should be approving for Sora's meet?
I think, Rod's just listed out everything that he's listed in his budget has to be done and has to be paid for by somebody. Now, who is that somebody and how does it get paid? we just finished our annual meeting and stallion auction Saturday for the second year, trying to raise some additional purse monies, and sold, we had 28 or 29, 30 stallions,
31 stallions.
31,
We sold 20
yeah, we,
of them, and those are all gonna be people that will be breeding mares in Oregon, foaling babies that will be Oregon breds.
but
So,
the problem,
It's very
we
encouraging.
raised about $30,000, a little less, but we haven't got all the expenses reported to us yet, but it'll be somewhere around the $27,000-28,000 range that we'll put into the purse accounts of those 4 remaining fair meets. But there has to be somehow, we've not been very successful in persuading members of the legislature or whatever that every dime you take away from the owner of the horse means at some point in the future there's 1 or 2 less horses to race at the racetrack, and so that event doesn't occur.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And you go and you talk about the economic implications on the towns and that kind of stuff. That's what sells, as opposed to this is what's happening to horses.
And you don't need a photo finish if you don't have anybody racing on the track.
Yep.
So again, we know that we have a lot of revenue we need to make up because of the losses that we've had in previous years. We know that we've lost 3 ADWs. We know we've lost historical racing. And I feel that we have a lot of support from the legislators to get that 25% and to find some way to help the commercial track out. If we get all of that, we're going to be sitting really well. But we need to deal with the reality that we don't know what's going to happen in the legislature.
Yep.
And all we can do is budget for what we've got right now.
Yeah. As I say, the biggest. Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead, Margaret.
Oh, no, I was just going to say the biggest asset we have is that you're meeting with Representative Gomberg, and he seems to be with us, and so does Representative Evans and a couple of these other things. So that helps. Those people pull some weight.
And
Connie?
I want to also recognize how much I appreciate all the associations, but I particularly want to point out the fact that Leah and Dave are not employees, they're volunteers, and they do this on a shoestring. And they have really contributed, everybody contributes a lot, but they have really contributed a lot to our success and our ability to keep running. So I personally want to thank both of you for everything you've done. All right, next.
Connie, can I ask a question?
No,
If-
yes.
If because I'm getting ready to do our proposal to which is due the end of January. But am I supposed to do Union and Sora in this year's biennium? Or am I supposed to do it in 25? Because those race meets run in 24. I mean, in 25, but they run in before we get the money.
We lost you for a second. When do you actually pay those funds out? Can you hear me?
Well, yes, okay. So, well, why don't I just give you a call and we can talk about it later?
Okay, we'll do that. We'll do that. All right. So the last thing we need to talk about for this is, oh, Karen, did you find that last one? Okay, let's talk about this because we know what he's going to ask for. Provided it actually looks like this, he's going to get it to us soon. Karen, why don't you go ahead and share your screen?
You want to write some stuff down? You need to mute yourself.
You see it okay?
So this is what they requested last year for Prineville, and Prineville is asking for the same thing except for an additional $3,000.
Yeah.
So it'd be additional $3,000 for
So 172,300.
right, and we already have this budgeted, so it'd be just adding $3,000, which is not a big deal for us. So I don't see any problem with that, but do you have any questions on this, commissioners?
No, I don't.
Okay. And then you can go ahead and close your screen because I'll take over again.
Oh,
Karen?
where'd you, there, yeah, one more. There we go.
Okay. And the last one that we have, unfortunately, we don't have one of them, is this is Grants Pass, and I lost. Rod, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, I know
Sorry.
why. Because they have one less day of racing, right?
Yes, it's one less day of racing. It's going back to 7 days instead of 8 days.
Okay.
Right. So this is what they're asking for the next biennium.
Okay.
Okay.
Connie, are there any problems with that? I mean, you're the budget person. Looks good.
Yeah, it's high, but again, I'm really expecting that next biennium, we're gonna have what we may have to do is approve the hub funds for the next 2 years. And then once the 25% is approved, go back and ask the associations, give the associations a new number on what else they can have.
Yeah.
Is what we're probably gonna have to do.
And it's one of those things where we make an adjustment because we don't know until that bill goes through whether we'll get the 25% back in our budget as opposed to the general fund.
Exactly.
Karen?
Then
Just a reminder for everybody on the
you've not
call.
heard anything. Karen has a question.
Oh.
Yes,
So just a reminder for everybody on the call that we do this allocation process, but if the funds don't come in, the money can't be paid. So that's always this is what we'll do, but that's assuming we get the money we believe we're going to get. So it's always that.
but we will. We'll get the money. We always do.
Well, we always have.
All right. Yeah, the only problem that we have is if the Greyhound bill goes through and no other bill goes through to help us all out. Now, I see that Carrie is on here from Gray 2K, and I have talked extensively to several legislators, and everybody seems to be on the same page that they want to see us whole. So I'm counting on that. And I know Carrie's going to take that message back to Gomberg and say, boy, wherever you can, make them whole so we can do business. And we can take care of these horses, because a lot of this extra money we're going to get for the 25%, we need to be putting into more safety things to help these horses. And that at the end of the day is really what we need to be doing. Was there anything else on the agenda? It sounds like you guys are going to recommend that those all go through.
Yes.
And Karen and I will set up some time to figure out how much money we think we can give out in addition to that. Thank you, Karen, for reminding me it's only 400,000 extra and not 800,000 extra, because I was having a little bit of a twitch for a moment there.
Yeah, for
That's
this year, yeah.
So to give out.
Oh, you're freezing up again.
I mean, not very much. We'll have a little bit. And so the other thing today, we don't have Tillamook's numbers. If they are drastically different than what we had before. We may either call another finance meeting before the commission meeting, but what we'll probably do is just bring it up at the next commission meeting.
Okay.
So those don't impact this year. Those are all for next fiscal year. So we'll just address those. Last year, Karen, do you happen to have last year's handy?
Yes, I do. 23, 25.
I haven't heard anything that
So
makes me
they'll
think
be
that.
at, oh, they'll be
I
at,
haven't heard anything that makes it.
so they'll be at 187.6 this year. For 24, 25.
So if they go up a couple $1,000, it'd be very nominal. But again, I think we're fine waiting until the commission meeting to get that together. And that does not impact this fiscal year. We just need that money we need those numbers as quickly as possible so we can tell you what we expect for hub funds for the rest of this year and next year.
Yeah. And I appreciate big time the input from the associations, because that's very valuable. So thank you.
Any other public comment?
Connie, you had one more agenda item was cost of inspection of the track and analysis.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks,
Rod. So we do have, this is some other money that we've set aside. We've set aside about $175,000 for track repair. That's in addition to the money that it costs for this company to come out. If by chance the track is in great shape and they say we don't need anything, then at the end of April, when they leave and say, God, your track is so perfect, I wish I could live here, we'd be able to give out that money too. But we are holding on to that $175,000 because there's a good chance they're going to come in and say, you need more sand, or you need this, or you need that. At least we know that Rod can't afford any last minute expenses.
Is that for all of the tracks or just one?
That's just for Rod's. And we picked his because we've had the most fatalities there and we have the most race days there. And it's our best track. And quite frankly, I think if we took that equipment that we're bringing in to one of the other tracks, it'd be $4 million to make the repairs.
Okay.
I don't really know that. I just know that the other tracks, they don't run as much and they don't have the equipment and facilities that Rod has. His track is in really good shape.
And so many of them are fairgrounds and that kind of thing, which is a little bit different. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we're recommending that we just want you to be able to go on record at the meeting and say, we know we have this money set aside for this. And if we don't need it all, that can go back to the hub funds.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just important transparency on that.
And that is scheduled for the 23rd of April.
Okay, good. You did get it scheduled. Good.
Yeah, it's scheduled the 23rd of April through the whatever 25th or something.
Okay.
Yeah, so they have some really great equipment. This is now a requirement for all the HISA tracks. We're just going to try it with one of our tracks and see how it goes and see how much value we get out of it. But they have some very advanced equipment. They have a piece of radar equipment that actually looks into the depth of the track and sees if there's anything below the track at a lower. It can go all the way down to the bedrock to see walls there. They're going to do core samples. They have a machine that emulates a horse trotting or galloping, the same kind of pressure on it to see how it works. They are going to measure the evenness of it. They'll look at, some things that we do. Obviously, we're doing a lot of that on our own. We just don't have the more sophisticated equipment. And several things may come out of this. It may be if one of those pieces of equipment really gave us a lot of information, maybe we'll look at buying one of those pieces of equipment in the future so we could take it out to all the tracks. or maybe we'll bring them back another time, but this is a trial at this time. This is a chance for us to find out how well it works. The good news is we're not HISA, so we don't have to do everything they recommend. We can just take and choose what we think is best for our horses.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, is that the last agenda item? Okay, any other comments or questions before we adjourn? Okay, so Con, if you could do some sort of a summary so we can present it at the commission meeting next week or the week after, whenever the meeting is, 17th, I'd appreciate it. Because I didn't write it down.
Okay, good thing we recorded this.
That's right. Okay, anything else? Okay, with that, I adjourn the budget committee meeting. Thank you all very much for your participation. Let's hope we have a good economic forecast.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.